We'll see if I actually post this. My voice isn't usually this low, but I've had some chest stuff going on lately. It feels like it's time to go public. Very scary on so many levels, but other people can do it, so I can too. I say a lot. Ooh. Okay, I know how it is to just wait for people to get started. You're like, come on. I'm working on that, though. Patience. Okay. I'll just start at the beginning. Well, the real beginning was back in 1983 when a series of unfortunate events occurred that I chose, of course. That not only was a total breakdown in identification with anything here, health, career, life purpose / career, relationship. But the biggest thing that happened as a result of the culmination of those events was knowing for a fact there was no such thing as unconditional love here. And knowing that there was no way I was going to take another step until I found out what the fuck was going on. There is no point. I mean, all I could see for years after the events and prior to merging with the truth all is, during those 5 years, the only thing I could three things that I saw in this world that people focused on were material things. The more the better. And then once people had the material things, they wanted more. So I saw that for the empty hole it was. Inside that people were trying to fill artificially. The second thing was judgment. It was just all about who's bad and who's great and who's better and who's worse. And the third thing was concern for one's health, dying, so-called. Now, for some reason, I always knew, even before I merged with truth, that life was eternal, is eternal. But what I didn't know was the unconditionality of love that's true and the oneness that's true. But I get a little ahead of myself. So one day, after enough years went by, I got to a place of what I call the bottomless pit of despair over what seemed to me to be the fact of not having any answer and not getting one. Certainly not from myself, and absolutely not from the rest of the world. I saw so clearly that nobody could give me an answer. And so close to midnight one night, late in October, I think it was October, it could have been November, but it was probably late October, in 1983, I got to a place where I guess you could call it I was in full surrender. And in hindsight, what the experience that happened next, which was absolutely surprising in every way. I'd never gleaned that that was even close to a possibility. I never came close to hearing that, sensing that, feeling that from anywhere here, including in me, except for the eternal life part. But what happened next, it was yeah. Well, I feel like in hindsight I had reached out as far as I could reach, and the true all that is was able to connect with me somehow at that place. I kind of see it as like two fingers touching, like two hands on two fingers, like this, like that. And that place where we touched, I found myself one with who we truly are. And to this day, there's only 3 words that can sum it up, and it's all is one, all is eternal, and all is pure. Love that's a feeling that, in my ignorance, I went to like near-death experiences afterwards, and the Bible afterwards, and no. Nothing even touched the description, much less the feeling of what I felt. In that one eternal moment. And when that moment passed, well, the elation was great, and I honestly thought, cool, man, peace out, Scotty, beam me up, I figured it out, you know? There's no reason to be here anymore, right? Almost 42 years later, I'm still here, and what the thing was after the experience, after enough weeks went by, and I realized I wasn't going anywhere finally, away from here, I mean, there was no choice but to try to be it as best I could. I mean, I had no idea how, but the only thing I knew was the way to be it was to let go of any inner struggling against anything that I had, because that's how I came to be one with truth. I had let entirely go of my struggling against the way of the world here, and any struggle involved in finding the answer. I mean, I totally let go. And so I was like, well, that made sense, you know. So in everyday life, when I put it into practice, and by the way, I went from being a totally fear-ridden person that barely slept at night. I was just so afraid, heart-poundingly afraid of everything all the time. But I went from that person to not a fearless person by far, but such a less fearful person that I could, for instance, go to a class that I was in, and instead of the pre-me going in just terrified that I would be, chastised in some way for being late to a class, I walked in and was, cool about it, like, hey guys, better late than never, or something like that. And I really felt it, and I was in that glow, that newness, that glow for a long time. And I'm going to be all over the place with this. I've lost track of where I was, but and that's okay. Where was I? Oh, so I got a lot of practice with surrendering my inner struggle against stuff. And the more I practiced, the more intense the situations got. And so, the more I grew my inner peace muscle. Because, every time I would let go of my struggle against whatever it was, and sometimes it would be minutes, sometimes days, sometimes months, sometimes years. But whenever I'd let go of my inner struggle, what I call the magic of love would happen, and I would go from feeling either in forward anger or reverse depression to neutral, which was peace. And so I'd feel peace inside, and I wasn't dependent on what whoever else changed in any way. The thing that I was wishing, I'd see this judgmental person, and I'd be like, that was my hardest thing, by the way. I'd be like, I wish they weren't so judgmental. That's so cruel. I feel so bad for the people they're judging. But when I'd finally get to this it is what it is place that came when I let go of my own inner struggle, much to my surprise, and I didn't need it to happen at that point, but much to my surprise, they would change. They would get less judgmental. They would be kinder. I didn't say a thing, it was all about my energy of acceptance, even though I didn't agree. I mean, it was all about that, surrendering my inner struggling against. It's always been about that. And trying to think where I left off. Well, I don't know how long I want to make this for now, but I wonder if there's a time limit. I don't think there is. Anyway, it seems like I need to kind of give an overview of my life since then. I'm going to leave a whole lot out, but maybe I can do broad strokes without being too wordy. Oh, here was the first thing that happened. Even though the worst of times brought the best of times, because, how much better can it get than to know who we are? To know. And once you know, there's no unknowing it. There can be forsaking of it, which I did do after enough decades of being alone and being sick to death of it. But again, part of the plan. That's what finally catalyzed my embodiment of it. Instead of being the hamster on the wheel that just kept getting triggered over and over and over again with more situations to let go of my inner struggle against, once embodiment came, I didn't have to do that so much. Or let's put it this way, in a different way. Because it was just naturally there. Suffice it to say that the precursor to the embodiment experience was basically having everything, almost, not everything, but almost everything burned out of my body. Literally. I was in ketoacidosis. Long story I'm not going to go into. Except to say, it's right up there with the, I don't know if it's 3 or 4 major best experiences of my life in terms of the blessings that were yielded as a result. So even from the get-go, I realized the feeling of loneliness from it was just as strong as the feeling of absolute gratitude for it. So I would often say to myself, what do you want to do? You wouldn't trade it for anything. So, buck up, Michelle. Deal with it. You're alone. You feel alone. You may not be alone, but you feel alone. Well, of course I'm not alone. Nobody is. I mean, it's all one. That was the oneness part that was very comforting from the get, too. But, I mean in terms of another human ass being. I really always wanted that so bad. Oh, so bad. But that's what led me to forsaking truth itself back in 2020. And I almost forsook myself, which is the same thing as truth when it comes down to it. I almost forsook myself pretty recently, and then I didn't. Then I said, no, you're done with this pattern. It's heartbreaking, though. I won't lie. But I am done. I'm done with needing anyone else to keep me company here in a real way. The main reason I can do that is because I've experienced it. And all I'll say at this point is that teacher here, the only person that could teach me how I can go more deeply into me with this ability to stand alone, is Carrie K. mm. There's no words for the blessing I feel when I realize what a gift she is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank everyone, because, and I mean everyone, the hardest to thank from the easiest to thank, because I know enough now, after enough practice, that I have everyone to thank. And it can be real hard at the time, but now that I really and truly realize that everything that happens for me, not to me. And I really get that now. I still have to remind myself when I'm in the midst of stuff. This is a daily devotional practice, and I always feel like I'm just starting to get somewhere. And then an infinite amount of growth opens up before me, and I'm like, you haven't gone anywhere yet. That may be enough of the overview. It hits the main points, or some of the main points. I put together I'm always writing to myself, of course. Although I do like to communicate with other people, which is why I'm recording this now. We'll see if I have the guts to put it out there, but, we'll see. But the desire to share love trumps everything, so I'll put it out here. I'll put it out there. I just hope like Amanda always says, the only other person I follow, Amanda Lawrence, I just hope this helps support in some way. And I know it will. I mean, look at Carrie, look at Amanda supporting me. So it will. I know it will. If not now, at some point. And again, I didn't say this part, but of course, we all know everybody's on their unique path in their own perfect, because we're all perfect, yet unique as far as this world is concerned, ways. We're all on the perfect part of our path. So it just depends on, do I absorb, connect with, resonate with, feel in my own beingness some of this, none of this, or all of this. Okay. Oh, so I have written down some main concepts. Because I'm always writing, always trying to improve my practice. Because there's infinite room for improvement. I mean, growth's eternal too. Oh, I know what I was going to say. There were certain things after the experience that I just came away with knowing. I knew and know. For instance, that all are, there's no better than and worse than. There's no farther ahead than and further behind than. There's only infinite dimensions of experience that we all are infinitely growing and in each other's shoes, that those shoes are infinitely growing as well. Meaning, well, I don't know, but just different. So I'm a homeless person in one dimension. I'm an enlightened person in one dimension. I'm a victim of a horrible crime in another dimension. I'm a perpetrator of a horrible crime in another dimension. As we all are. All these things that we can be and experience, because, it's all about the experience. And, oh, the other thing I do for sure, it was like, duh, well, since this is who we truly are, sorry, I'm holding my phone and I think it's shaking all over the place. Since this is who we truly are, one eternal, pure, nothing but love, we obviously must be here to grow who we are in this place of the polar opposite of who we are. I mean, this is the place where we are who we are truly not in every way, finiteness instead of eternity, separation into separate bodies instead of oneness. So much we believe there is to fear, that we do fear, and I still fear, even though there's nothing to fear. I'll tell you what, I never knew about ascension. I really didn't, because church just creeped me out, and I never got it. I'm like, what? What are they talking about? How does that make any sense? But anyway, and I was mostly just worrying that my brother would pass out, because he always passed out in church and hospitals. And of course, how do we all not? But anyway, where was I? To grow who we are in the midst of who we're not. Yeah, that was the only reason to be here. I mean, what else could it be? Oh yeah, I didn't know about ascension because I didn't do the Bible thing. But and then when I did learn about it, kind of recently, in like a few years ago, I was like, well, of course, that makes sense now. I mean, why would I have had this experience if we weren't going to ascend in this lifetime? I mean, I guess it could be. But anyway, it makes sense to me now. And it's real exciting because it's really happening. I don't care how long it takes. Couldn't care less. I mean, we've all got all the time in the world. We got eternity. So that's, I'm getting more and more patient as time goes on, that's for sure. Because it's getting more enjoyable now. It's getting more fun. It's getting more able to run my own show and just be me, no matter how hateful or fearful or whatever else other people are inside of. I just feel for them. I feel for them so much. I feel for me too when I'm in there. That's kind of the big thing. Well, it is the thing. Feeling. That's. I learned how to put pieces together so much from Carrie. Man, it's true. The feelings we have, that we let ourselves feel with acceptance, with compassion for ourselves for having them in the first place. You know, the hard feelings, the negative feelings, that's what paves the way for us to be who we are. I always think of it as being buried under a mountain of rock. The rock being all those painful, lodged, stuck-in feelings from eons of DNA and experience that's held in the DNA and experience in this lifetime too. But the more we feel them, and I've been practicing this big time for the past 8 years, probably, big time, since cancer. 9 years. Probably 10. I don't know, but close to that. But big time now. Because it's getting more fun. It's getting easier. There's more acceptance there than there is self-chastisement and fear. I feel like there's things I'm leaving out, but keep looking at the clock. This is probably long enough for now. So, can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm happy I'm doing it. It feels like the right time, and all we can do is go by our feeling and let ourselves feel it. Good, bad, and the ugly. All. Hardest thing in the world to do. The thing we've learned how not to do as experts in that field. How not to feel. Because, yeah, the hard feelings, don't I know it? Feels like dying. You're like, please, God, let me die. I rather than bear this feeling. But guess what? You know? You don't die from a feeling. If you could, I would have. I'm sure of that. Oh boy. So anyway. The funnest part, the best part is getting to love myself enough to where I really can honestly love other people too. I started out in reverse. I think we all do, you know, that other orientation where I so needed another to validate my sense of worth. I mean, you guys, I believed myself to be unworthy of the dirt beneath people's feet. I did. Alongside of being scared of everything. But that was my path, you know. That's why I've been able to get to where I've gone. I love and I've always used that springboard analogy. The lower the springboard goes that the diver is on, the higher they catapult. And that's the way it is, in my experience. And I'm sure in most everybody's experience. Because everybody seems to be like on the real similar pages these days. So yeah, I started out with that other orientation of that only went down, you know, till I finally went inside and then started to truly live and truly love inside of me. Allowing me to love